No,
Here's,
no,
the,
no.
here's the problem, though. I actually think I know what sort of scoffed LCK, which is this. Right, obviously there are a bazillion people who are T1 fans. They all want T1 to be the best. We get that that's a big part of it. But I actually think it's this, right? I've never seen a team win both domestic championships, Atlus, and get less credit than GenG has, because every time people expect they're not going to be the one that wins. And they've like quietly fucked around and won both splits. Like, and if you even look at the finals as well, these finals are pretty conclusive. Like, these are pretty good wins. Like, I almost feel like everyone was paying so much attention to the drama of T1, or to be fair, they also did start the year really good, or the KT Rolster storyline, like, or D plus being bad, or whatever. Like, for a team that's won both splits, I don't feel like GenG really, like, people aren't even really hyping them that hard to win worlds. They mention them with JDG, but everyone just seems to automatically say JDG wins. So what about GenG? Do you actually, can you stand 100% behind this team, Atlus? Is this a world's winner? Is this a real, true favorite?
I think that GenG and T1 have a lot in common. And that is, when it comes down to brass tacks, they're never quite there. That's the thing that, like, the MSI situation and things like this, like, so many times they've been in semifinals, and even then, like, they can look good at, like, pretty good, but then it's never quite enough, and there's always that one moment where the faith is broken, and so it's really, really hard to root for them. But I think that, like you say, they deserve all of the praise. Like, this team has been just, ever since Chovy joined the roster, I swear to God, this team has just been domestically a demolition train. The problem is that when they go international, things get difficult, and there's lots of things that you can attribute it to. Like, there are certain players that require certain environments in order to perform the best, and blah blah blah, all these things. But that's, like, you need to take that into account when you're assessing this team, right? So I think that it's a little bit of a shame that domestically they're so incredibly strong, but then they're not quite able to find the results. But the thing that's really interesting is that, going back to your point, in 2017, it was the same situation, right? Like, they win worlds, but everyone's too busy being sad about Faker crying instead of celebrating like them winning worlds. Yeah. And yeah, there was Samsung Galaxy back then, but it feels it's been like the stigma that's followed this team. Yeah. They're like the second best team that wins, like, in people's minds. That's what sort of followed them around. And so I think that, like, if they won this Worlds, for example, I think that's when we need to conclusively just get that one off our backs. And I think it's about time Peanut picks up a world title, for goodness sake.
Look, I'm all for this narrative. Like, this is definitely something that I would like to see come true. I think the problem with people getting hyped up by GenG, or the lack of hype, is that every time we see them, they are, as Atlus points out, just disappointing. Objectively, they should have won Worlds last year.
Oh, for sure.
That was their Worlds to win. They were coming in extremely hot into that World Championship. They had a style that was really different from any other team in that tournament. They had very good map control. They were very good at trading objectives cross map. They were very good at split pushing and side laning. They were very good at maintaining tempo. As I talked about ad nauseum last year, they simply got more gold out of the map than any other team in the world by several percentage points. If you looked at their total farm by percentage of minions, they would be 1 or 2% over the next best team in the world. They would get like 56% of the total jungle creeps in the game. It was really dominant in the way that they extracted resources. They were basically just strip mining the map, and then they would get gold leads and then fight you at third Drake, and that's when they would turn the game, right? The problem is that when we got to the actual, semifinal at Worlds last year, Chovy was not playing like he did the entire year. He had regressed to the previous, blinders on Chovy, where he can't look at the side lanes anymore. He wasn't reacting to his teammates' actions on the map. He wasn't leaving his lane. There were really, really big problems. And Peanut also, I think.
And he had a couple of choke games at the end, as usual, as he was wanting to do.
Peanut kind of ran it down, and maybe playing Graves wasn't the right choice for Peanut at that tournament. We can make all these arguments, but they didn't play like they did domestically. And that was true at MSI as well. They didn't play like they did domestically. Now, it wasn't Chovy this time. It was that basically their entire draft strategy was around early game skirmishing, which is just not what they do. And I don't understand why they seem to just either they seem, when they go international, they seem to lose all faith in their own play style. And it's either the players individually revert to earlier pre-GenG versions of themselves, they de-evolve in front of our eyes, or they are playing a style that they perceive to be the meta style, even if it doesn't fit them, and they would objectively do better just by playing what they've practiced the entire year. So I don't know why they are so good at doing these, playing their own style against Korean teams, but it seems like they almost panic when they go international. And so we have these very, very strange issues.
I mean, by the way, along with what you're saying, they did it at MSI too, Monte. Remember in the lower bracket,
they did MSI.
Was like, I can't wait for this shit. And then they just did fuck all against BLG. They didn't even play the same way at all, did they? It was alien.
Why is Chovy playing Annie?
It's mad, isn't it? I know.
It was apparently because he was sick. That's the word on the street. But like, I'm hearing exactly what you're saying. I don't know what it is. Like, there's a stigma around GenG in the Korean community, which is the GBBPP, the score ban pick, which can just sometimes fall off the edge of a cliff for no reason at all. And people just put that acronym in like the post-match threads afterwards. They're like, it's just another one of these. Score once again. Well, win some, you lose some.
But it's not score like the wrong
things.
You're working with your players in that regard. And if the players are thinking that this is the best way to play the game, a lot of times you as a coach have to say, no, guys, we're not going to do this current fad of what's going on, or we're not going to get sucked into this other team's play style. We need to do what we need to do. And like, even if it's going to give you potentially some slightly worse matchups, or I know you're confident in your ability to play this champion, but it completely shifts the style that we've practiced for the last 6 months. We actually just can't do this. Let's find a different solution that is a better choice for us as a team. Sometimes you have to stand up to your players as a coach and put your foot down. So it's hard to know if it's score or not, because it could easily be Peanut saying in draft, oh yeah, we can totally do this. I can shot call it the game this way and we're going to win. And the coach just has to, you just kind of have to shrug your shoulders and say, because what's your choice? Like, either you try and shut down your player in that moment and they lose confidence, or they get pissed and play badly, or you try and like instill that confidence within them and let them play these picks, even if you think it's a lower chance of success.
Actually, I think it's a really
situation. Go on, Alice.
I was just going to say, like, just to go on with that point, it's really interesting because I think the players do blame the coaches for drafts a lot.
Okay.
And I agree with Monte. I actually think that the players draft more than coaches do in almost every aspect, like every single time. They're the ones that have to play the champion. They're the ones that have to be confident playing the champion. And they're the ones making the decisions the majority of the time. But I do think like it is good for the coach to take responsibility for a draft afterwards. And so I like that aspect of it because it allows, especially for fans, right? Yeah, because you shield the players and then the fans can still be fans of their player, even if their player had a rough time. They're like, well, it was a bad draft and that's the coach's fault. And it sucks for the coach, but I think it's actually better for the performance of the players.
Yes,
in
I
a
agree.
really weird way, which is probably why Tom resigned and why Bengi resigned. Sorry, why Bengi resigned. And now, Tom's pretending to coach T1,
I mean, even though I did it with obviously affection and a sort of, light-hearted levity that would make it not offensive at all. So I actually did tell Loco back in the day, I thought he was an amazing coach because everyone naturally hates him anyway. So if he just gets all the blame, then Bjergsen, etc., just gets to do
he's really good at being hated as well. Yeah. That's the best thing about Loco.
You're for this one. I told him your problem is you don't like being hated, you idiot. Stop swimming against the stream, Loco. Swim with the current.
But you love to hate Loco.
Of course, that's the problem. But this thing is, he even does have that really annoying effect where he can actually annoy you when he's there, but then when he isn't, like now when he's gone, you miss him. You go like, oh, please, where's old Loco at? Where's that? You sort of do it in a fucked up way, don't you? You get nostalgic. By the way, though, two things. One is a joke point, which is obviously what happened is sometime in around, I'm going to say like 2012, Monte. Obviously, Score went and whatever Korean shaman version they have of the cursed monkey paw at the bazaar in the Middle East or whatever the version they have. He went and did that. And all he said, because they're always fucking themselves with the contract, aren't they, Monte? They don't make themselves specific enough. He just said, like, he thought, Monte, this is where he fucked up. He thought he was going to be on that Solomon Bible tip where, you know, famously in the Bible, everyone loves the Bible, guys, gather around, right? Lock the doors, everyone. I've been waiting 10 years to get this audience. I've got them now, right? So the Bible. So in the Bible, there's a great story where Solomon is offered by God, the God of the Israelites. Like, he says, basically, you can sort of have one wish. What would you want? And Solomon, right, because he's actually like low-key based, instead of saying like, give me all the money in the world or all the power, what he actually says is give me wisdom, because essentially it's like a children's parable for, like, you know, with wisdom you would get those other things as well, wouldn't you? Like, if you had wisdom, you'd be good with money, you'd have power and influence. So essentially along those lines, Score thought, Monty, well, I don't want to be greedy. Instead of saying I want to like win loads of world championships, instead, why don't I do this? Why don't I wish for the qualities that would allow me to? So he said, I have one wish. I want to be the best at my job ever to do it. And so the wish got granted, but then the clause was, except on the most important days of your career. Aside from that, and because he said job, it fucked him twice, Monty, because then it wasn't even just as a pro player, then as a coach, he got fucked. Then every time he went internationally, his brain just get wiped, all his memory, and he was just starting fresh with all his shit. I don't even know what the meta is, fuck. And he's just asking players like, Peanut, what do we play? Peanut's like, draft me Niddley and Graves. I'm sick on him, honestly. Like, pulls up some old YouTube clip from 4 years earlier. That's how it starts. And old Chovy, the joke is Chovy himself. Mate, for real, then if it wasn't for the fact Koreans actually tend to be fairly boring people who just play the game a lot, I almost wish there was some mistake behind Chovy, because, dude, there is something weird happens to him internationally. Like, it's like he himself doesn't know who he is, because the amount of times I've looked at some of these international games and I'm like, mate, he's going to tear this other mid laner up. And then he would just do all that shit where he'd like draft a time customer or some like fucking like you say, like do something like Annie when there's not even any buttons to press. Like, you're like the best mechanical player in the world. Why are you drafting Annie? Like, there'll always be some weird fucking Chovy angle every time, mate. Every time.
I like to think that because he won Asia Games, now like he's got that monkey off his back, you know, because at least that was in China. Yes, you know, it's kind of next door, but still, like, he's done it. You know, we've won something, and it was technically international, right? And so now we can go into Worlds knowing that it's possible.
I like this.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, Kanavi and Ruler definitely helped. God, that team was just ridiculous. Imagine if that was like a team that we could have. Imagine Chovy and Ruler on the same team together, guys. They couldn't lose, right? They couldn't lose. It'd be impossible for them to lose, right?
Actually worse than JDG, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I think JDG is actually just a better version of that Korean all-star team. Because
that's why it really is.
I mean, they had T1 players and then the JDG superstars, basically. Yeah. And I don't think
if you want Ruler, you just went from Chovy to Knight. Like, you know what? Didn't work with Chovy. I'll try Knight this year. Like, fuck it. All right, mate, calm down. Fucking hell. It must be nice for some. Must be nice, eh?
Yeah, I think you know, when you start seeing the lists of best players that are going to be at Worlds that are going to start to come out, I would be surprised if we didn't see the top three be some iteration of Chovy, Ruler, Knight almost every time.
I mean, two of those three, definitely. It depends how much people believe in Knight, probably. But yeah, almost certainly those two, yeah. By the way, to bring it all back, though, this is actually why also, sadly, I think people aren't hyping GenG. People are acting like it's a foregone conclusion JDG wins Worlds, right? Look, I will say they've got an amazing chance. I would pick them to. History looks awesome. But I will say, as we pointed out with past teams like GenG, in League of Legends specifically, the World Championship has an insane fucking habit of eluding the number one team in the world, like outrageously so. Like, they often don't even make the final. So first of all, history tells you don't assume anyone's automatically won. But then the other thing is, if it wasn't going to be JDG, why wouldn't it be GenG? They're right there. Like, I even think, by the way, some of these elements that, like, we talk about the big names like Chovy and people, how about this angle? Mate, I hate him at low key as a player. I don't think he should be on a top team, but I have to like give credit to fucking Thorin. He actually does get better like every year or something, mate. Like, every time I keep thinking he's capped, he sort of like levels up. Like, he was actually good in these finals, mate. He was legit. And then actually, I do think, as much as like, look, Piers is mega. Where the fuck did they find this Delight guy though, mate? He's the one I want to know. Who scouted this player?
They found him already. He was brought up. Him and Pays were playing together, I think, on GenG earlier on. And then Delight left and played with Bro for a bit and things like that, and sort of like
he is mega, man. He's like a revelation to me in that final.
He's only getting better, man. Like, he wasn't like him and Henna. Like, that lane was a catastrophe, and Henna was actively bad. Like he was terrible. And even Henner has leveled up since spending time with Delight. Like he had a good season this season, strangely enough, on Bro. Like, and we all love to love Bro, but like I think like legitimately, Henner was playing quite well and was probably their best player, which is very, very strange to say. And him and Delight together were actually very, very good. And then Delight joins this like robot guy that they cooked up in a lab, and now they're unstoppable. Like I'm still mind blown by Pays. Like his performance in his first final was just the stupidest thing ever. Because I had to predict against them because I was like, well, he's untested. He's a young kid, 18 years old. There's no way he's going to be able to perform. And then it's like, okay, all right, well, fair enough. Just be exactly what you have been all season. I guess it doesn't matter.
I actually hadn't thought of that because their name is Bro. You're right. It's actually affection what everyone in the league does when they fist them. They're giving them the Bro fist, it's called. Like they've heard of this American thing called a Bro fist. Everyone's fisting the fuck out of them. Yeah, true. Okay. Mm-hmm. They did win that one game over T1 or whatever, though. There was that outrageous one, Monte, that you called. You did call that one.
Yeah, they beat a few teams because they also beat they beat D Plus as well. And their challenger team actually dethroned the 22 wins in a row D plus challenger team. Right. Also, okay. Bro just strikes. They just need the name. That's all they need.
Indeed.
So yeah, I think when we talk about GenG though, we just need to see an actual performance out of them at an international stage. I think that's what's really holding people back right now, and it's holding back my enthusiasm certainly because I'm just so used to them at this point not being the same team that I watch domestically. So until I actually have visual confirmation that they are going to win the way that they typically win and not try some wacky garbage, then that's kind of where I'm at. Like, it's hard for me to predict them just because I've now seen just the potency of JDG. And as for the rest of the Korean teams, like, I hope Faker is going to be better because even when he came back to the team and they looked better,
Does anyone actually believe in T1? Let's be real. Cards on the table. Does anyone actually believe in T1 to do something? Can they do something else?
I would raise you. Does anyone believe in any of the LCK teams coming into Worlds? Are any of them like actually... Is it possible to put your faith behind any of these teams? And I think the answer is just flat out no.
You are right. The answer is wrong. But much like KT, on a higher level, I am going to continue to do the same thing with Chovy, which is I'm going to open my heart up wide, Atlus, and just believe in love, and that won't be hurt badly this time. And then when he just treats me like a piece of shit and goes for cigarettes and never comes back on Monday, then I'll just be crying next to a phone that's never been wrong, like every other fucking Worlds. Don't worry, I've got a couple of them. I've got Chovy, I've got Knight, I've got a whole load of fucking boyfriends around the Worlds, stringing me on, leading me up, and telling me.
Godby to come home, man, from 2015. I'm still waiting. Still waiting for him to come home.
No, that's good. That's good. But here's the thing: like every time that we don't have faith in a Korean roster, that's when the Korean teams always get all their teams into quarterfinals. That's true. They always do, right? Yeah, we're always the one doubting, like, oh man, is the third or fourth like Korean seed? Are they really gonna make it out of the group stage, or in this case, the Swiss stage, right? Oh shit. Well, they all made it out again. And meanwhile, the number one Chinese seed just completely chokes and got shit on in the tournament. There's always one of the Chinese teams.
The other thing to remember, here's the other storyline to remember to really make the stakes for JDG insane. Remember, if somehow they follow that trend of being like the number one seed in China, didn't you say, Monty, they spent like $16 million or something on this roster?
$16 million.
That's like Team Liquid times 2.5 times that thing where they blew it last year, where they had the $16 million. Like, you better go deep for $16 million, for fuck's sake. Come on.
Well, I think in JDG's case, they're a heavy favorite coming into Worlds. And I mean, this team was built to win Worlds or bust. Like anything besides winning is a failure. But if they get knocked out in quarters or something crazy, it will be one of the biggest upsets of all time. I mean, this team is just too good.
Yeah, I mean, it would be 2018 KT. If they lost, it would be 2018 KT again. That's fair. In my mind. I think that like that team was the team that the team of any Worlds that I've ever seen, they were the team that should have won that didn't, more than any other. Outside of, I guess, JD, a couple of years ago when Suning made the finals for some reason. It was very odd. What was that, 2020?
That was a sad final.
Yeah.
But let's
No,
talk
to
about
be fair,
T1.
there was one good thing came out of that final, which is that final literally did trick TSM into spending millions and millions of dollars. And now, you saw this recently, they've sold their slot for about twice what they had to pay Sword Art to fuck off and not play League of Legends. That's actually amazing when you think in context now. That's so next level in it, I know.
Yeah, it's funny because like
the way it's like it just makes Reginald seem like such a, like an idiot, like out of touch, because it's like everyone else watched that final, they're like, oh, Sword Art's still around, that's quite cool, and Reginald was like, I must have Sword Art, get me him at all costs. And then meanwhile Peter Zhang meanwhile apparently Peter Zhang was playing his own Peter Zhang version of Telephone, where he goes like this: Sword Art, yeah, what's that, like 2 million? Yeah, he's only coming for 4 million. I can get you 2.1 at 7 million only. Like, what's that, like? And then he goes, gets his third phone, Grandma, transfer 4 million, and they're like, what's he doing there? Like, I was just playing everyone. He's like, that was like the fucking Big Shot or something. He's just on another level, wasn't he?
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.